In the frigid expanse of the Arctic, Jason Statham's character, Captain Ethan Reed, expertly navigated his aircraft through a labyrinth of ice and snow. As a skilled pilot renowned for his bravery in challenging conditions, Ethan embraced the thrill of the flight. But beneath the stoic exterior lay a subtle turbulence of personal demons. The haunting memories of a past mission gone awry clawed at him, manifesting in shadows that lingered long after he had left the scene. Ethan preferred the solitude of the icy wilderness, far from the noise of the world and the reminders of his failures. He soared above the endless white landscape. However, a sense of unease enveloped him. The mission was straightforward: deliver supplies to a remote research station. Yet, the isolation weighed heavily on him, each gust of wind whispering echoes of loss that spurred him deeper into reflection. Suddenly, as his focus wavered for just a moment, the plane trembled violently, a sudden jerk that sent alarms blaring through the cockpit. It was then that Ethan's instincts kicked in, years of experience igniting a fire within him as he battled with controls that bucked unforgivingly against his grip. He fought to regain control, a mix of adrenaline and fear coursing through him. Unbeknownst to him, the icy depths below concealed not only unyielding cold, but also something waiting to awaken. A predator stirred by the chaos above. The plane shuddered violently, metal groaning under the strain as alarms blared in the cockpit. Ethan's heart raced, instinctively tightening his grip on the yoke. The digital displays flickered erratically, warning lights flashing like strobe signals in the dimly lit cabin. With each jolt, memories surged back, visions of a mission gone horribly wrong. But there was no time to dwell on the past now. Come on, he muttered under his breath as he fought against the controls. Knowing he was losing altitude rapidly, he scanned the landscape below for a safe landing spot. The unending expanse of ice seemed to stretch for miles in every direction, a stark white void that offered little promise. Just then, one of the engines sputtered out entirely, sending the plane spiraling toward the earth. With adrenaline surging through him, Ethan made a split-second decision. He aimed for a wide patch of ice that appeared relatively stable. The descent was rough and chaotic, and as he braced for impact, a surge of determination washed over him. He couldn't let this be his end. Not here, not now. The aircraft slammed onto the ice sheet with bone-jarring force, skidding across its surface before finally coming to an abrupt halt. The silence that followed was deafening, broken only by the faint hiss of smoke and crackling sounds from within the damaged craft. As Ethan gathered himself and assessed the wreckage, a chilling realization settled in. The Arctic might just be his greatest adversary. As the swirling winds howled outside, Ethan unbuckled his seatbelt and cautiously surveyed the wreckage. The cockpit was a jumbled mess of shattered glass and twisted metal. Warning lights blinked ominously, while smoke curled from the engine compartment like a restless spirit. Shivering in the frigid air, he quickly shook off the shock and shifted into survival mode, determined to salvage what he could. Ethan pried open the door with a grunt and stepped onto the icy surface. A biting wind immediately assaulted him, cutting through his jacket like a knife. He could feel the chills seeping into his bones, reminding him that time was not on his side. The plane's cargo hold was mangled but intact enough to yield valuable supplies. He began rummaging through crates filled with food rations, thermal gear, and emergency gear, anything that could help him endure the unforgiving environment. Every minute felt like an eternity as he worked efficiently. Packing supplies into a makeshift backpack, Ethan's mind focused on priorities: warmth, sustenance, and shelter. As he wrapped himself in a thermal blanket, memories of his previous failures flickered back briefly, but he pushed them aside, channeling his fear into resolve. Ethan knew that merely surviving on this ice sheet wouldn't be enough. He needed to assess his situation further. An instinctive urge to explore tugged at him as he cautiously stepped away from the plane wreckage, scanning the desolate surroundings for any sign of life or danger, unaware that something else in the cold was beginning to take notice of him as well. As Ethan ventured further from the wreckage, the oppressive silence of the Arctic enveloped him, broken only by the howling wind and the crunch of snow beneath his boots. However, as he began to explore, a series of unsettling noises pierced the stillness. At first, he dismissed them as echoes of shifting ice or the distant groans of the landscape, but each sound sent a jolt of apprehension through him. Was it merely his imagination playing tricks on him, or was something else lurking in the shadows? A low growl reverberated through the frigid air, making Ethan pause mid-step. He turned sharply, scanning his surroundings, but nothing moved beyond the stark white horizon. Shaking off the chill that crept into his spine, he pressed on, but unease gnawed at him like frostbite. Unexplained footprints appeared in the snow, leading away from his crash site. They were larger than any animal tracks he recognized, and seemed to vanish abruptly into nothingness. With every step deeper into this desolate expanse, Ethan felt the weight of being watched. The sense of foreboding became palpable, an invisible force that urged him to turn back. That he quickened his pace, heart pounding in rhythm with the mounting tension around him. Shadows danced at the corners of his vision, and fleeting glimpses of movement made him question if he was truly alone in this frozen wilderness. The icy grip of fear began to settle in. Survival was no longer just about battling the elements. It was also about confronting whatever hunted him in the depths of the ice. Ethan's heart raced as he surveyed the massive tracks imprinted in the snow, each one deeper and wider than any animal he had encountered. The footprints led away from his crash site, snaking across the icy surface like a sinister trail left by a creature far larger than he could comprehend. That a wave of dread washed over him. He was not just battling the elements, but something predatory lurking beneath the ice. Kneeling to examine the tracks more closely, he noticed the claw marks etched into the frozen ground, a detail that sent chills down his spine. They were fresh. He swallowed hard, realizing that whatever had made them was still nearby, possibly watching him from the shadows. The wind howled around him, but within it, he thought he could hear a low, guttural growl echoing through the desolate landscape. Every instinct screamed at him to retreat to the safety of the wreckage, but fear propelled him forward, fueled by a primal curiosity to understand what he was up against. As he followed the tracks cautiously, paranoia seeped into his thoughts. Each snap of a twig or flutter of snow felt magnified, heightening his awareness of being hunted. He glanced over his shoulder frequently, convinced he could feel eyes boring into him from afar. With every step into this haunting expanse, Ethan felt the walls of his sanity closing in. The Arctic was no longer just an unforgiving wilderness. It had become a battleground against an unseen predator that thrived in the silence, and he was its prey. Tension escalated with each heartbeat as he grappled with the realization that survival might hinge on more than just enduring the cold. It would require confronting whatever terror awaited him. In the depths of the ICEAS, Ethan stumbled through the vast, white expanse. Flashes of his past began to invade his mind, interrupting his focus. Memories of another mission surfaced, one filled with laughter and camaraderie among fellow pilots before everything had gone wrong. That he remembered the thrill of flying with his best friend, Alex, soaring through the skies as they shared dreams of adventure. But that joy had been shattered in a split second when a tragic accident took Alex from him, leaving Ethan haunted by guilt and lost. In those moments of introspection, he felt the weight of his fear pressing down on him like the crushing cold. The Arctic was not just a physical battleground. It was a landscape that mirrored his inner turmoil. Each gust of wind seemed to taunt him with reminders of his perceived failures and missed opportunities, the lives he could have saved, the chances he should have taken. Just as quickly as the memories emerged, so too did the fear of the present. A primal instinct reminding him that danger lurked nearby. The growls echoing in the distance stirred an ancient sense of dread within him, merging seamlessly with the emotional scars left by loss. As he moved forward, Ethan realized he was locked in a dual battle, one against an external predator stalking him across the ice, and another against his internal demons that whispered doubts about his worthiness to survive. With every step deeper into this unforgiving wilderness, Ethan faced not only the threat from beneath the ice, but also the specters of regret and sorrow that accompanied him, reminding him that survival would require confronting both man-made fears and those born from within. Ethan's heart raced as he caught a glimpse of movement behind him, something massive and shadowy gliding effortlessly across the ice. Panic surged through him, prompting a primal instinct to flee. Without thinking, he sprinted away from the wreckage, his breath visible in the frigid air, each inhalation stinging his lungs as he pushed himself to run faster. The creature's growl echoed ominously, a reminder that it was gaining on him as he navigated the uneven terrain. Ethan relied on every ounce of his training to stay one step ahead. He ducked beneath low-hanging icicles and leaped over snowdrifts, using his environment creatively to evade capture. The crunching sounds of snow underfoot were punctuated by the heavy thuds of the beast pursuing him, an unnerving rhythm that fueled his desperation. As Ethan raced forward, he spotted a narrow crevice in the ice, a potential hiding spot. He dove into it just as he heard a terrifying roar echo behind him, reverberating off the icy walls and sending tremors through his body. In this cramped space, he held his breath and pressed against the cold surface while peering outside, scanning for any sign of his pursuer. Time seemed to stretch endlessly as he listened intently for clues about its proximity. The growls shifted and faded. Silence enveloped him once more, but Ethan knew better than to let his guard down. Whatever hunted him was still out there, lurking and waiting for the right moment to strike. With adrenaline coursing through him and survival instincts kicking in hard, Ethan braced himself for what lay ahead. He couldn't afford to be caught. Again, emerging from the crevice, Ethan felt a flicker of hope as he noticed a faint silhouette against the stark white landscape, a structure partially buried in snow and ice. His instincts urged him forward, driven by the desperate hope that it might be a research station where he could find answers and perhaps even a way to fight back against the creature hunting him. But as he approached the building, the wind howled fiercely, but Ethan pressed on. The entrance was partially ajar, and he pushed it open with a grunt, stepping inside to a darkened interior that smelled of dust and aged paper. Flickering lights illuminated remnants of scientific instruments scattered throughout, along with charts depicting strange Arctic phenomena. It was clear that this had once been a hub of research dedicated to studying the unknown. Ethan's heart raced as he rifled through scattered notes and data logs. They detailed accounts of unusual wildlife behavior and sightings of massive creatures beneath the ice, evidence suggesting that something ancient and predatory lurked in this frozen wasteland. As he unearthed more documents, a chilling realization sank in. The creature stalking him had likely been observed before, and there were theories surrounding its capabilities and hunting patterns. Just then, a noise echoed from deeper within the station, a low growl that sent shivers down his spine. Panic surged anew as he realized he was not alone inside this building either. With renewed urgency, Ethan gathered what information he could. Knowing that his time was limited, he needed to find a way out and prepare for the inevitable confrontation with both the lurking predator outside and whatever menace awaited him within these abandoned walls. With a surge of urgency, Ethan bolted out of the research station, the growls of the creature echoing through the icy halls behind him. The bleak Arctic landscape stretched out before him, but there was no time to hesitate. He could feel the presence of the beast lurking just behind the veil of winter, urging him to push his limits. As he navigated the unforgiving terrain, Ethan's heart raced. He quickly formulated a plan, intent on using his environment to his advantage. Grabbing a flare gun from his survival pack, he set traps with the remains of fallen branches and chunks of ice. He could maneuver into position that it was now or never. He needed to draw the creature into his web. Suddenly, a massive shadow broke through the snowstorm, rearing up as it emerged, a grotesque amalgamation of power and fear that sent adrenaline coursing through Ethan's veins. The beast's eyes glowed with primal intelligence as it charged forward, jaws wide open, revealing rows of razor-sharp teeth. In a split-second decision, Ethan fired the flare into the air while simultaneously darting behind a snowbank for cover. The creature paused at the bright light, its predatory instincts torn between its primal urges and confusion. Seizing that moment of hesitation, Ethan lunged from his hiding spot, exploiting every combat skill he had learned over the years. The showdown escalated into a brutal battle where man and beast clashed under the pale Arctic sky. Using agility and cunning over brute strength, Ethan fought to survive as he drove deep into the monster's instincts. Each movement became crucial as survival hung in balance. This wasn't just about defeating the creature. It was about confronting everything he feared and reclaiming not only his life, but also his very purpose in this harsh world. With a final, desperate push, Ethan drove a makeshift spear deep into the creature. Feeling its immense weight shift before it collapsed onto the icy ground, a deafening silence settled over the landscape as he stood, panting heavily and covered in sweat despite the frigid air. The battle had tested him to his limits, but in defeating the beast, he felt a profound sense of accomplishment and relief wash over him as he surveyed the wreckage from their clash. Ethan's thoughts drifted to the loss of Alex and the ghosts that had haunted him throughout his ordeal. That he realized that surviving this brutal encounter was not just about brute force. It was also about finding strength within himself amid adversity. The victory was bittersweet, leaving unanswered questions swirling in his mind about what other secrets lay hidden beneath the ice. Ethan retrieved his flare gun, igniting it and sending a bright signal into the sky, a beacon of hope for any potential rescuers. As he watched the bright red flame pierce through the gray clouds, he reflected on the fragility of life and the power of resilience. While he had survived this fight, he knew that the Arctic still held mysteries beyond comprehension, and that something else might still lurk beneath its icy surface. With resolve renewed and purpose rekindled, Ethan steadied himself as he awaited rescue, ready to confront whatever challenges came next. He had learned that true survival wasn't just defeating external threats, but also embracing his past to forge ahead into an uncertain future.